Fernando Mendoza has the football world stunned after reports claimed he's walking away from the NFL and signing a shocking new deal instead. And now, as more details about the situation start coming out, many fans think there's a lot more happening behind the scenes than people realized. On the night of April 23, 2026, in Pittsburgh, the Las Vegas Raiders did what everyone expected them to do. They selected Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza with the #1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. It was the most predictable pick of the entire draft cycle, and yet, the weight of it still felt different when the name was actually called. The Heisman Trophy winner, who was not in attendance at the draft, had been expected to be the top selection for months after he led the Hoosiers to the college football playoff national championship and a 16-0 season. The contract that followed made headlines for a very specific reason. The quarterback signed a 4-year, $57.2 million contract with a $38.1 million signing bonus, an average annual income of $14.31 million, and the contract is fully guaranteed. That number, $57.2 million, is not just big for a rookie. On face value, the $13.6 million figure will break a 16-year league record set in 2010 when the then St. Louis Rams drafted Sam Bradford out of Oklahoma for $13 million per year over 6 seasons. The last time a rookie walked into the NFL with a contract this large relative to its era was before the league rewrote its entire pay structure to stop it from happening. Previously, agents and teams haggled over contracts that surpassed what top veteran players earned. Matthew Stafford was the 2009 #1 pick and signed for $72 million over 6 years with the Detroit Lions, while Sam Bradford got $78 million the following year from the then St. Louis Rams. Those deals became so outrageous that the NFL changed the rules entirely. Cam Newton, the #1 pick in 2011, settled for $22 million over 4 years with the Carolina Panthers under the adjusted rules. That is the rookie wage scale, and for over a decade, it kept first overall pick salaries relatively modest compared to what veterans earned. But the cap kept rising. As the NFL's salary cap increases, so do rookie contracts. Outside of the 2021 season, which was right after COVID took over, rookie contracts have gone up every single year. And in 2026, they're earning more than ever. That upward movement is built directly into the wage scale formula, which adjusts slot values annually alongside league revenue growth and cap expansion. The 2026 cap is $301.2 million. And because of that growth, Mendoza's deal surpassed a barrier that hasn't been touched in 16 years. Mendoza will likely get paid the highest average annual value in nominal dollars, and should be the first rookie to top $50 million since 2010. Now, some will point out that inflation tells a different story. Financial analysts clarify the situation by comparing eras. For example, if we adjust Sam Bradford's 2010 record contract to 2026 dollars, its real value would reach $19.7 million per year. So in raw purchasing power, Mendoza has not technically surpassed Bradford. But in the context of the post-2011 NFL, the salary cap era as we know it now, nobody's rookie deal has looked like this. And here is where the Las Vegas Raiders part of this equation becomes genuinely fascinating. Following the departure of Derek Carr, the Raiders have experienced instability at quarterback, cycling through 7 starting signal callers over the past 3 seasons, and going 15-36 during that span. 7 quarterbacks, 15 wins, 3 years. That is the franchise Mendoza just walked into. The Raiders didn't just draft Mendoza either. Despite the team signing veteran QB Kirk Cousins this offseason, Mendoza will be expected to compete for the starting job right away. Kirk Cousins, who once commanded a fully guaranteed $84 million deal from the Minnesota Vikings, signed a 2-year, $12.6 million deal with the Raiders. That is a veteran on the downslope of his career, brought in specifically to hold the seat warm or to push the rookie if the rookie isn't ready. Come 2026, any prospective Raiders quarterback faces the prospect of working with 7-time Super Bowl champion and minority team owner Tom Brady. Tom Brady, Mendoza's childhood idol, now owns a piece of the team that just drafted him. When Mendoza was asked about this on The Rich Eisen Show, he kept it real. If I get selected by the Raiders, he'd be a boss, so it wouldn't be like how 6-year-old Fernando envisioned it, being best friends. The coaching staff added another layer. During the media viewing period of practice, Mendoza primarily took snaps under center, which is what he is expected to do in Coach Clint Kubiak's offensive scheme. This is significant because in college, Mendoza ran his offense almost exclusively out of the shotgun. The transition is real, and it has already started. To make Mendoza's transition smoother, he has conducted walkthroughs at the team hotel with the fellow rookies during the last 2 nights before practice, taking 25 to 50 snaps under center with each offensive lineman. But before we look at what he is doing now, and before we can fully appreciate why this deal matters, we have to go back. Because the story of Fernando Mendoza's $57.2 million contract does not start on draft night in Pittsburgh. It does not start in Indianapolis at the Combine. It does not even start in Bloomington, Indiana, where he built his legend. It starts in Miami, Florida, where a kid who nobody wanted somehow refused to disappear. Fernando Gabriel Mendoza V was born on October 1st, 2003. He was born in Boston, Massachusetts during his father's medical residency and grew up in Miami, Florida. His family roots trace back to Cuba. "Although I grew up in America, my 4 grandparents are all from Cuba," he said. That heritage, the Cuban-American identity, the tight-knit family, the immigrant work ethic, would become a central pillar of who Mendoza is as a person and as a player. He attended Christopher Columbus High School in Miami, a private Catholic college prep school with a deep football tradition, renowned as the high school alma mater of football greats, including Brian Grease, Mike Shula, and current Miami Hurricanes head coach Mario Cristobal. Mendoza played quarterback for the Explorers under head coach Dave Dunn and showed flashes of what he could become. As a quarterback on the football team, he completed 133 of his 203 pass attempts for 1,396 yards and 16 touchdowns with 4 interceptions, while also adding 137 yards and a touchdown on the ground across 2 seasons. Decent numbers, solid production. But in the ferociously competitive South Florida recruiting scene, where 5-star athletes grow on every corner lot and every palm tree-lined practice field, decent production wasn't enough to turn heads. Mendoza was rated as a 2-star or low 3-star prospect, depending on the recruiting service, and was not highly sought after by Power 5 schools. 2 stars, in a world where quarterbacks his height, 6'5", typically generate at least some curiosity from college scouts, Mendoza remained an afterthought. The powerhouses that crawl through Miami, looking for talent every single year. Florida, Florida State, Miami, did not offer him a scholarship. Neither did Alabama or Ohio State, or any of the programs that typically collect quarterbacks like trophies. His initial and most notable offers came from smaller Division I programs, including Yale, Penn, and Lehigh. Believing this was his highest ceiling, Mendoza committed to Yale before his senior year. Yale, an Ivy League education, a fine football program in its own right, but a world apart from Saturday afternoon primetime on ESPN. A world apart from the college football playoff, a world apart from the NFL draft. Mendoza accepted this. He was going to play football and get a degree, and that was going to be enough. And then fate intervened in the most random, unpredictable way. He originally committed to play college football at Yale, but after Justin Martin, who had orally committed to the University of California, Berkeley, instead signed with UCLA, Mendoza signed with California. Another quarterback backed out of a commitment to Cal, and suddenly, the coaching staff in Berkeley needed a body. They looked at their options. They found Fernando Mendoza, a 2-star kid from Miami committed to Yale. The University of California, Berkeley was the only Power 5 school to extend a scholarship offer to Mendoza, and it came very late in the cycle after another quarterback decommitted. Think about that. The only reason Fernando Mendoza ever set foot in a Power 5 conference was because somebody else changed their mind about going to Cal. If Justin Martin signs with Berkeley instead of flipping to UCLA, Mendoza goes to Yale, plays in front of 3,000 people on a Saturday afternoon in New England, gets his degree, and probably never sniffs the NFL. The entire trajectory of his career hinged on another teenager's decision about where to go to school. Mendoza flipped his commitment and signed with Cal. He arrived in Berkeley in 2022 with virtually no hype, no fanfare, and no guarantee that he would ever see the field. He did not appear in a game and redshirted his initial collegiate season. A redshirt year is common, especially for developmental quarterbacks, and Mendoza was very much viewed as a developmental project. The coaching staff knew he had the frame, 6'5", 225, and the arm to potentially grow into something. But there was work to do. His high school coach, Dave Dunn, who had watched Mendoza's methodical development firsthand, wasn't surprised by any of it. Those coaches who had passed on Mendoza, though, were starting to feel something, as Dunn later told the Indianapolis Star about the coaches who overlooked his quarterback. "Boy, we screwed that one up." But Mendoza wasn't thinking about vindication. He was thinking about reps, about footwork, about learning the playbook, about earning a chance. That chance would come sooner than anyone expected. And it would come because, once again, circumstances beyond his control opened a door that shouldn't have been open. Fernando Mendoza earned his first career start in Week 6 of the 2023 season against Oregon State. He wasn't supposed to be the starter that early. Injuries and depth chart shuffles pushed him onto the field as a redshirt freshman, and he responded the only way he knew how, by competing. He completed 21 of 32 pass attempts for 207 yards and 2 touchdowns with an interception. In a loss to the Beavers. A loss, not a storybook debut, but the coaches saw enough to keep him in. Mendoza was named the team's starting quarterback heading forward. That 2023 season at Cal was a gritty, unglamorous education in what it means to be a Power 5 quarterback. In 8 starts as a redshirt freshman, he completed 63% of his passes for 1,708 yards and 14 touchdowns, leading the Golden Bears to a 6-7 record and an Independence Bowl appearance. A 6-7 record. A bowl game that most casual fans don't watch. For Fernando Mendoza, it was a masterclass in persistence. He was playing behind an offensive line that struggled, with receivers who were inconsistent, in a program that was transitioning from the Pac-12 to the ACC, in the middle of college football's great conference realignment. Nothing about his situation screamed future #1 overall pick. The 2024 season brought more of the same, incremental growth, inside a program that couldn't quite put all the pieces together. Entering the 2024 season, Mendoza won the starting quarterback job for Cal, beating graduate transfer Chandler Rogers. He was the undisputed starter now, and he used that platform to demonstrate that his ceiling was much higher than his recruiting ranking ever suggested. He steadily developed in California, highlighted by a career-best 3,004 passing yards, 16 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in 2024. 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, against an ACC schedule that included games against the likes of Miami, SMU, and Clemson. In his 2 years as a starter at Cal, Mendoza went 9-10, barely above .500. Those are not the stats of a quarterback who is on anyone's radar for the first round of the NFL draft, let alone the first pick. But the people who watch the tape, the scouts, the coaches, the analysts who pay attention to process rather than just results, saw something different. They saw a quarterback who was consistently elevating the players around him. They saw a field general who could read defenses with an almost preternatural awareness. They saw a leader, and they saw a player who was being held back by the infrastructure around him, not by his own limitations. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in business administration from Berkeley's Haas School of Business in 2025. He completed his degree in just 3 years at one of the top public universities in the country. The kid who was headed to Yale didn't just play football at Cal. He excelled in the classroom at one of the most academically rigorous institutions in America. Then came the decision that changed everything. On December 11, 2024, Mendoza announced he would be entering the NCAA transfer portal. He had given Cal everything he had for 3 seasons. He had earned his degree. He had proved he could play at the Power 5 level. But he also knew with the crystalline clarity of someone who has spent his entire life being underestimated, that he needed a better situation if he was ever going to reach his full potential. The transfer portal was bedlam. Mendoza was immediately one of the most coveted quarterbacks available. He was the number 4 ranked transfer quarterback according to 247 Sports. Indiana was one of several Power 4 schools to heavily pursue the redshirt junior, and Mendoza ultimately chose IU over Georgia, Miami, FL, and others. Georgia, Miami. These are programs that stockpile talent the way some people stockpile canned goods. And Mendoza chose Indiana. Bloomington, Indiana, a basketball school. A place where the football program had been a punchline for decades. Why? The reasons were layered, and they were deeply personal. Indiana's track record of developing quarterbacks, plus a breakthrough 2024 season in Cignetti's first year, initially enticed Mendoza to give Indiana a hard look. But he also had family ties in Bloomington, as his younger brother, redshirt freshman quarterback Alberto Mendoza, had already spent 1 year in the system and knew the ins and outs. His brother was already there. The coaching staff had proven they could build winners quickly. And the system, under second-year head coach Curt Cignetti, who had gone 11-1 in his first season and taken Indiana to its first ever college football playoff appearance, was tailor-made for a quarterback with Mendoza's skill set. After a transfer recruitment which spanned less than 2 weeks from when he entered the portal, Mendoza's arrival at IU meant the Hoosiers had their next hopeful quarterback star in place. 2 weeks. That's all it took. Mendoza entered the portal on December 11th. On December 23, 2024, Mendoza announced his decision to transfer to Indiana University Bloomington. Christmas Eve, essentially a gift to Indiana fans that they could never have anticipated. Nobody, not the most optimistic Hoosier fan, not the most bullish college football analyst, not even Mendoza himself, could have predicted what was about to happen next. 16-0, the 2025 Indiana Hoosiers did not just have a good season. They did not just have a great season. They had one of the most statistically dominant seasons in the modern history of college football. And Fernando Mendoza was the engine that drove every single one of those wins. It started with a workmanlike victory in the opener. In the 2025 season opener against the Old Dominion Monarchs, Mendoza completed 18 of 31 passes for 193 yards and scored a touchdown on a 5-yard rush as Indiana won 27-14. Not flashy, not explosive, just a win. But then the throttle opened. He completed 18 of 25 passes for 245 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Kennesaw State Owls, leading the Hoosiers to a 56-9 win. And then came the game against Indiana State that made the rest of the country sit up in their chairs. Against the Indiana State Sycamores, Mendoza completed 19 of 20 passes for 270 yards and 5 touchdowns, and ran for an additional touchdown in a 73-0 win. He did not return to the game after halftime. 19 of 20, 1 incompletion, 5 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground, and he sat out the entire second half because the game was already beyond over. Then came the ranked opponents, and Mendoza did not flinch. Mendoza threw for a career-high 5 passing touchdowns against the number 9 Illinois Fighting Illini on 21 of 23 passing with 267 yards. 21 completions on 23 attempts against a top 10 defense. He again had more TD passes than incompletions, as he was 21 of 23 passing for 267 yards and 5 scores. Overall, Mendoza had 4 games in 2025 where he had as many or more touchdowns than he had incompletions. That is a staggering statistic. 4 games where the number of touchdowns he threw matched or exceeded the number of passes that hit the dirt. The win at Oregon was the one that made believers out of the skeptics. He completed 20 of 31 passes for 215 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception in a 30-20 upset win on the road against the number 3 Oregon Ducks. The Hoosiers went into Autzen Stadium, one of the most hostile environments in all of college football, and walked out with a victory. Coach Cignetti's response captured the mentality of the entire team perfectly. That is resiliency right there. That is like being the rubber ball. You don't want to be like a crystal chandelier when you drop it and it breaks into a million pieces. We want to be like a rubber ball that bounces right back into your hand. The Penn State game was the moment that made Mendoza a Heisman frontrunner. In a 27-24 road win against the Penn State Nittany Lions, Mendoza completed 19 of 30 passes for 218 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, adding a rushing touchdown. The passing touchdown to receiver Omar Cooper Jr. came in the final moments of the game to take the lead and was widely described as a Heisman moment. After Indiana forced a Penn State punt with 1:51 to go and trailing 24-20, Mendoza led the Hoosiers on a 10-play, 80-yard drive that ended on an incredible throw to Omar Cooper Jr. as he made an even better catch. 1 minute and 51 seconds, 80 yards in Happy Valley. Against a Penn State crowd that was tasting the blood of an upset, Mendoza marched his team down the field and threw the pass that saved Indiana's undefeated season. The regular season ended with a breathtaking flourish against the Wisconsin Badgers. He threw his 30th touchdown pass of the season, eclipsing the Indiana single-season program record set by Curtis Rourke the previous season. Mendoza finished the game 22 of 24 passing for 299 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 31-7 win. Then came the demolition of Purdue, the Big Ten championship victory over Ohio State, and a 13-0 record that secured the #1 seed in the college football playoff. The Heisman Trophy ceremony in New York City on December 13, 2025, was a coronation. Fernando Mendoza, the enthusiastic quarterback of #1 Indiana, won the Heisman Trophy on Saturday night, becoming the first Hoosier to win college football's most prestigious award since its inception in 1935. Mendoza claimed 2,362 points, including 643 first-place votes. He finished first in all 6 Heisman regions, the first to do so since Caleb Williams in 2022. He was named on 95.16% of all ballots, tying him with Marcus Mariota in 2014 for the second highest in the award's history. A landslide, an absolute annihilation of the competition. Mendoza is the 43rd quarterback to win the Heisman and the second winner of Latin American descent to claim the trophy. Stanford's Jim Plunkett was the first in 1970. For the Latino community, this was more than a football award. He delivered portions of his 2025 Heisman Trophy acceptance speech in Spanish to honor his family. Mendoza has emphasized the role of the prideful and supportive nature of Hispanic family culture as a cornerstone of his professional stability. An emotional Mendoza stood at the podium and said what so many people in that room and watching at home were already feeling. If you told me as a kid in Miami that I would be here on stage holding this prestigious trophy, I probably would have laughed, cried like I'm doing now, or both. This moment, it's an honor. It's bigger than me. It's a product of a family, a team, community, and a whole lot of people who believed in me long before anybody knew my name. But the season was not finished. The college football playoff awaited, and Mendoza was not interested in letting up. Mendoza went on to lead the top-seeded Hoosiers on a storybook run through the college football playoff, directing wins over Alabama in the quarterfinal, Oregon in the semifinal, and a nail-biting 27-21 victory over Miami in the championship game at Hard Rock Stadium to claim the university's first football national title. The championship game was poetry. Mendoza, a Miami area native who grew up walking distance to the national title game at Hard Rock Stadium, led Indiana to a Cinderella 16-0 season under second-year head coach Curt Cignetti, the first team to boast that record in 130 years. A kid from Miami, playing in Miami, winning the national championship for a school in Indiana. Mendoza, the CFP National Championship Offensive Player of the Game, passed for 186 yards without an interception. But it was his 4th down, 12-yard touchdown run with 9:18 to go in the 4th quarter that turned out to be the decisive score, giving the Hoosiers a 24-14 lead. The final numbers for the season were staggering. Including his 3 CFP games, Mendoza completed 273 of 379 passes for 3,535 yards and 41 touchdowns with just 6 interceptions in 16 games to go with 7 rushing touchdowns. 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 16 wins, 0 losses. The most complete season a college quarterback had produced in years, and he did it at a school that had never won a national championship in football before. The #1 pick and his $57 million future. Fernando Mendoza declared for the 2026 NFL Draft with nothing left to prove in college football. He had the Heisman, he had the national championship, he had every major award a quarterback could win. In addition to taking home the Heisman Trophy, he was named a consensus first-team AP All-American, the Walter Camp Award winner as the nation's top player, the Davey O'Brien Award winner as the nation's top quarterback, and the Maxwell Award winner as the nation's top player. He was the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year and Quarterback of the Year. The pre-draft process only solidified what everyone already knew. The quarterback is the most valued position in football, said Sky Sports NFL's Jeff Reinbold. So anytime you have a chance to get a guy who can be a franchise quarterback, you take one. And I think Mendoza has enough of those qualities to warrant the first pick in this draft. Reinbold was blunt about the rest of the class too. This is not a good quarterback draft. I don't have another quarterback with a first-round grade. The Raiders were not exactly a glamorous destination. 3 years of quarterback chaos, 15 wins in 36 games, a franchise searching for an identity. But they had made aggressive moves in free agency to surround whoever they drafted with talent, while the Raiders mostly doled out their money on defense in free agency, with signings like Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean, Eric Stokes, and Malcolm Kunze. They also signed center and 3-time Pro Bowler Tyler Linderbaum to a 3-year, $81 million deal, and wide receiver Jalen Naylor to a 3-year, $35 million deal. The offensive line was rebuilt. The defense was retooled, with running back Ashton Jeanty and star tight end Brock Bowers, who was an All-Pro in his 2024 rookie campaign, and wide receivers Trey Tucker and Jack Becht to target in the passing game. The weapons were there. All they needed was a quarterback. When the Raiders made the selection official, their general manager John Spytek summed up what the organization saw in Mendoza. Just a great person. Raised the right way. Great family. He's about the right things. It's about his team. It's about winning. It's about doing the right thing, being accountable to the whole organization. This means a lot to him. I don't think that being the first overall pick and winning the Heisman and all the things that he's gotten will change him. The $57.2 million deal made Mendoza a part of history. The only players to receive a fully guaranteed contract are first-round draft picks. This means that no matter what happens, they could get injured and never play football again. They will see every single cent from their rookie contract. Every dollar of that $57.2 million is guaranteed. Every penny. Mendoza could walk away tomorrow and he would still be owed every cent. Mendoza becomes the 5th Heisman Trophy winner to be drafted by the Raiders organization, joining Marcus Allen, 1982, Bo Jackson, 1987, Tim Brown, 1988, and Charles Woodson, 1998. When he arrived at Raiders headquarters, he met those legends. Mendoza posed with alumnus Jim Plunkett, alumnus Fred Biletnikoff, alumnus Tim Brown, and alumnus Marcus Allen. After arriving at Las Vegas Raiders headquarters, the weight of the franchise's history was present in those photos. He has chosen to wear the number 15, the same number as Raider legend quarterback and coach Tom Flores, and received Flores' blessing to do so. Flores, the first Latino head coach to win a Super Bowl, passing the torch to Mendoza, the second Heisman winner of Latin American descent. The symbolism was unmistakable. The rookie minicamp in Henderson, Nevada, has been illuminating. The Las Vegas Raiders' first overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, said he has learned a lot over the last 2 days of rookie minicamp, adding that information has been coming in like a fire hose. The transition from college to the NFL is never seamless, and Mendoza has been candid about the challenges, particularly taking snaps under center in Clint Kubiak's offense. After spending his entire college career in the shotgun, having such a genius offensive mind running such a coherent and complementary system is a really good place, really good situation to be in as a quarterback, Mendoza said. His work ethic has already earned the respect of his new teammates. Offensive lineman Trey Zoon III, a third-round pick in last month's draft, who played left tackle and center at Texas A&M, said it has been awesome to get additional reps in with Mendoza. Zoon called Mendoza a great leader, adding that the Heisman Trophy winner is easy to talk to. And when Mendoza's former Indiana teammates went to the White House to celebrate their national championship, Mendoza made a choice that spoke volumes about his priorities. "I'm on the bottom of the totem pole here. I've got to prove myself." Mendoza told the media, "I can't miss practice. I don't have the calendar, but as a rookie, I don't think that's a good look. I want to try to best serve my teammates, and I don't know if that be accomplishing that goal." Even Raiders veterans have rallied around him. The Las Vegas Raiders signed 10-year veteran wide receiver Philip Dorsett II to a reserved future contract this offseason, specifically to help the rookie quarterback. Dorsett is a Super Bowl champion and a man who has lined up across from some of the best corners in NFL history. With a #1 overall pick in Fernando Mendoza now on the Raiders, all eyes are going to be on him. But the veteran is already showing he has his rookies back. Legendary Raiders wide receiver Tim Brown offered Mendoza a characteristically sharp piece of wisdom. Don't try and be Tom Brady. Don't try and be Patrick Mahomes. Just be who you are, because at the end, it's always going to come down to that anyway. You can plan to do this and plan to do that, but what's in you is what's always going to come out of you in the end. So here's where we land on this story. Fernando Mendoza did not leave the NFL. He arrived in it thunderously, historically, and with a contract to match. The shocking new deal is the $57.2 million fully guaranteed rookie contract that made him the highest paid first overall pick in the post-wage scale era. The man who was once a 2-star recruit headed to the Ivy League is now the franchise quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, wearing the number of a Latino coaching legend, working under the watchful eye of his childhood idol Tom Brady, and carrying the hopes of a franchise that has been wandering in the desert, literally and figuratively, for years. Mendoza said it himself after the draft. "I'm still the underdog. I'm not one out of 32 quarterbacks at this moment." And honestly, that mentality, the relentless refusal to believe his own hype, might be exactly what the Raiders and their $57 million investment need. "I wasn't always a nice guy. I was an a-hole sometimes because I wanted everyone to do their 1/11th, everyone to do their job, hold everyone to a high standard," Mendoza said. However, coming into a new organization, starting from the bottom of the totem pole, "I believe that leadership is earned, not given." The deal is signed. The jersey is on. The work has started. Whether Fernando Mendoza becomes the franchise savior that Las Vegas is desperately praying for, or whether the weight of that $57.2 million contract and the Brady comparisons crush him before he ever gets started, is a story that will be written on Sundays starting this fall. But one thing is already certain: nobody is overlooking Fernando Mendoza anymore.